Thank you very much and welcome. I'm Father Mitch Pacwa and welcome to EWTN Live, where we bring you guests from around the world. Tonight we'll be talking about the lives of Christians in the Middle East, especially how they are doing now because many are refugees from their homeland. And we also want to discuss what an organization called In Defense of Christians is doing to help them. I'll be coming up, but first of all, we want to talk briefly with our own John Elson from here at EWTN about a possible new saint in the Catholic Church. John, how are you doing?
Good to see you. Happy belated birthday. Happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, you've got some videos about some saints, or saints to be, perhaps.
Right. Well, the program I'd like to talk briefly about is entitled They Might Be Saints, and it's an 11-episode series. And so far, we've produced three shows. So viewers may have seen the special that we've produced on the martyrs of La Florida, what we call Florida.
Right.
They may have also seen the special on Bishop Frederick Baraga, known as the Snowshoe Priest, who was the first bishop of Marquette, Michigan. And the special I'd like to talk briefly about tonight is dedicated to Sister Marie de Mondat-Grancy. Now, she was born to a 19th century French noble family, and they had great plans for her to marry within the nobility. She felt a calling to join the Daughters of Charity. And while a nun, she discovered the writings of a Blessed Anne Catherine Emmerich and her Life of the Blessed Virgin Mary. So in reading that book, Blessed Anne Catherine has a really detailed description of the location of the house at Ephesus, the holy house where sacred tradition holds Our Lady lived in Turkey. And so she received permission to travel to Turkey. She used that book to discover the house of Our Lady at Ephesus. Now, since her family was a noble family, they were able to purchase not only the house, but the surrounding property, and that is a shrine dedicated to Our Lady that we can enjoy today.
And
so
it's an area that overlooks the city of Ephesus, just outside of town.
That's right. So we have a brief trailer
let's
of that show.
take a look at the clip.
Adèle Louise Marie de Mondat-Grancy was born in the Chateau Grancy in Burgundy in 1837, the fifth child of the Count and Countess of Grancy. Sister Marie entered the Daughters of Charity Mother House as a postulant in 1857. She was there for 1 year, and she started to learn to be a nurse and a pharmacist.
Anne Catherine Emmerich is a beatified woman who lived in the 1700s and 1800s. She was bedridden but got mystical visions of traveling the world to holy spots, including to the place where the House of Mary in Ephesus was. She wrote all these things down in a book, The Life of the Virgin Mary, and that book was read by Sister Marie de Mondat-Grancy, and she followed those instructions in order to end up finding the true House of Mary.
And her first reaction was, we have to buy the house, we have to buy the mountain, because we need to protect this. And it was through her family's wealth that she was able to send for the money.
The account of the discovery of the Holy House of Ephesus adds historical context and a great point of connection for the cause, as they look to propel her towards being recognized as a saint. But it is her incredible life of self-sacrifice in leaving her riches to serve the poor, and her life of virtue, that makes her a natural selection to be considered to someday join the canons of the saints.
So this is like, getting in on watching a future baseball star when they're still in the minor leagues. This is seeing somebody before they become blessed or saint, and you get to learn a little bit more about them. And as their cause develops, you'll be able to follow, and that'll be a great introduction.
That's right. We're looking forward to sharing that with you.
All right. So watch They Might Be Saints, Sister Marie de Mondat-Grancy. They'll be coming up on Monday, August 12th at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and Tuesday, August 13th at 2:30 a.m. Eastern Time on EWTN. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Father.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
And we'll be back in just a couple more minutes with our guests, so please stay with us. Thank you, and welcome back. Our guest tonight has worked for many years to preserve the historic Christian communities of the Middle East. He was born in Lebanon, is now a proud American citizen and the founder and president of a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization advocating for human rights in the Middle East. This is a group called In Defense of Christians. Here to tell us more about the Middle Eastern Christians and what they face every day, and what we can do to help, please welcome Toufic Baaklini. Toufic, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Father, for hosting me.
Ahlan wa sahlan.
Ahlan fiik. Thank you.
And it's great to have you here. This is a very important issue. We've all heard about some of the devastation, the human rights violations and human atrocities that were committed by ISIS, also known as Daesh in Arabic, that were done against Christians, Yazidi people, and other groups. Hasn't this all come to an end?
ISIS supposedly got defeated in Iraq and Syria, but the persecution continues. And the Christians of the Middle East have been going historically through persecution through the last 1600 years.
Yes.
So we need to help our brothers and sisters in the Middle East to keep them in their homeland. This is where Christianity began. This is where Christ walked. And a lot of the villages that still, in Iraq and Syria, they speak the language of Christ, Aramaic.
Right.
This is the only language they know. So we want to keep them there. This is where it all started. And we want to help them as much as possible to be there, to go back, to be safe, secure, and to be treated equally.
What a lot of folks in the West don't understand is that frequently enough, the Christian communities in the Middle East are composed of the ancient people who had lived in those regions before the Arab conquests of the 7th and 8th century. So folks understand background, the Byzantine Empire and the Persian Empire had been doing body blows to each other. And then it was easy for the Arabs to conquer the region. But the Christians are those ancient Assyrian people, Phoenicians in Lebanon, Egyptian Copts are the ancient Egyptian people, and so on around the region. They're not Arabs who converted to Christianity.
No.
They're the local people who had become Christian earlier. Would that be fair?
That is fair. That's why we call them the originals. They're from that land. We want them to stay in that land, and we want to make sure to protect them and secure them in that area.
It's also the case that over the centuries, after the Muslim conquests, that Christians were given a specific status. They could stay, so long as they accepted a status called dhimmi. What is that?
It is it's almost the same thing that Daesh or ISIS did right now. When they entered the Christian areas, first they marked the Christian homes with Nun, which is N for Nazarene, to mark them that those are Christian homes. And they gave them three choices. They gave them either to pay taxes, the jizya, which was an enormous amount of money which no one can afford, convert, or die. And as you know, most of them decided that they don't want to convert to Islam, and we know what their fate was. They were beheaded, they were crucified,
Yeah.
and the women were raped. I mean, and throughout history, it almost happened the same.
And this is not traditional in Islam. And when the Arab conquest took place, the jizya protection, it's a protection tax,
Right.
That the Muslims will protect the Christians.
Correct.
But they originally charged less than did the Byzantines or the Persians. The jizya tax was lower than Byzantine tax or Persian tax. So Christians, okay, that's easy enough.
Right.
But ISIS
Yes.
did something completely different and made it extraordinarily high
Yes.
and impossible.
Yes. You either convert or die. Basically, those were the two
That's
choices.
what they really wanted.
Yes.
Now, given that that's what led to a lot of the survivors
Yes.
to be displaced. Where are they now?
Displaced, they're all over. A lot of them went to Erbil,
Which is
in
Kurdish
Kurdistan, under the Kurdish rule. It's a province in that part of Iraq. And many of them went to Syria and then to Lebanon because they had the same problem in Syria. So they went to Lebanon, and they still live there in big amounts of, especially Iraqi Chaldeans and Assyrians.
Many went down to Jordan.
Some to Jordan as well. And wherever they can go into Europe or the United States, some have family members here in Michigan or San Diego. So they try to survive, but they're living in in a situation in camps to where I visited the camps in Erbil. The same in Lebanon. Lebanon, it's a little bit better situation, but when you sit in the tent and live in a tent and you have kids, you have family, you go to school in a tent, so it's not a good situation for them to live in.
Yeah. So folks get an image of this. We have a clip ready to show people what is going on in Lebanon with the group In Defense of Christian and the way they're helping refugees. So let's take a quick look at that and then we'll continue.
Christians are passing through a very dark tunnel in their presence in the Middle East, and we can raise all the questions about their faith, their future. All Christians of the Middle East are suffering, especially Syrian and Iraqis, and also Lebanese.
Lebanon is a country of a little over 4.5 million people. Right now, it is suffering from the crushing burden of hosting almost 2 million Syrian refugees from neighboring Syria that fled into Lebanon because of the civil war. Lebanon's economy is fragile. It cannot handle the influx of people that have come in from Syria. Its social fabric is being strained. Lebanon is one of the few remaining success stories we have in the Middle East of a thriving Christian community.
للأسف بدي أقول لك شغلة إنه العالم بيفكروا إنه وضع العراقيين نازحين في لبنان هو مجرد مساعدة مادية أو مساعدة إنية، يعني بيعطوا مواد غذائية مرة مرتين ثلاثة وانتهى الموضوع، ولكن للأسف في عندنا معاناة جدا جدا كبيرة. معاناة تبدأ أولا معاناة النفسية، معاناة عدم الاستقرار، معاناة الخوف في لبنان.
أنا طلعت من بغداد سبب وفاة والدتي، لأن راحت بسيارة مفخخة. يعني من وفاة والدتي اسودت الدنيا بعيني.
فلما هربنا خفنا، كان يقصفون كثير، كانت صوت الطلقات، خفت ما يجي داعش وياخذنا يعني.
لما صار الهجوم هربنا، جينا على الحزكة، بيوتنا بالقرية انحرقت، الكنيسة تدمرت. أول كنيسة اللي تدمرت كنيسة الغربس.
دائما بنشكر مؤسسة IDC. نحن بعدنا بنكون مقصرين تجاهها من خدمات، من مساعدات اللي قدمتهم للنازحين الأشوريين جايين من سوريا أو من العراق.
بدي خص بالذكر أكيد مؤسسة IDC، المؤسسة هي اللي حقيقة هي اللي هي شغلتها وهمها وبقلبها الدفاع عن المسيحيين بالشرق.
Education is also a major need because many families, thousands of families, they left their homeland, their home villages, and they found refuge in other areas where there is no infrastructure to be able to send their children to schools. All Christian children of Iraqi refugees, they remained at home without any education for the whole year. Without the Christians, the Middle East is not the Middle East anymore. The Middle East, especially Syria, Iraq, and Lebanon, has always had this tapestry and this mosaic that makes its flavor.
You know, you're from the Middle East. I've been to many parts of it, not all. I've never been to Iraq, but I've been Lebanon, Jordan, Egypt, Palestine, Israel, been around, and people don't often understand the role of the Christians in the Middle East. The Christians have preserved and developed a lot of the intellectual background of the sciences, architecture, so much.
That's right.
And their absence is a problem. The Turks drove the Armenians and Greeks out, you know, killing 1.5 million Armenians, driving the Greeks out of their country, and it hurt their economy terribly.
That's right.
It was a catastrophe. What future can the Christians then have? There's an important component of the culture. What's the future for them?
I mean, we've been through persecution in the area. As you just mentioned, over 100 years ago, the Armenian genocide happened, and there was silence about it. So we could have spoken about it. We could have, and during that period, also in Mount Lebanon, over half of the Lebanese died from famine because there was a Turkish blockade blocking food and water to the Lebanese. That's why you see many Lebanese Americans, which they immigrated to the United States. There are more Lebanese Christian Americans here in the United States than in Lebanon.
Yeah.
There are 5 million Lebanese Americans throughout the United States.
And most of them are Christian.
They're mostly Catholic. When they moved here, there are no Maronite churches all over. I mean, in every city or and especially during that period. So they immigrated. I mean, over half died from famine, and some moved here and to South America.
That's right.
But this genocide should have been recognized.
So folks understand, World War I was still going on. The United States did not want to recognize it. Because they did not want to have hostilities with Turkey.
That's correct.
They're already fighting Germany and Austria. They didn't want to fight the Turks, so President Wilson just kept his mouth shut.
That's right.
Though he knew it all.
That's right. And it's not fair, and this should have been recognized. And right now we're working on legislation for that the genocide of the Armenian, Assyrian, Maronite Christian genocide. And it passed throughout, I believe, the 50 states on local legislation, and working in Congress to pass it and make sure at least that the Turks would accept it and say that it did happen and it was a genocide.
The problem, that's one stage, but now we also have to recognize what's happening in the present, and what can we do? I mean, do we just say, well, these people have to come and move to America? Is that the only solution, or is there something we can do for the Christians who wish to stay in their homelands?
The Christians, they do want to stay in their homelands. The refugees I've visited, the camps in Iraq and everywhere, in Lebanon, they want to stay there. They want to live there. Those are their countries, their culture. As I said, some of them don't speak any other language but the language of Jesus.
Yeah, Aramaic.
Aramaic. So they don't want to come here. They want to stay, but they want to be secured. We need to rebuild their homes, start having jobs for them to be able to stay. And the President of the United States, Donald Trump, and the Vice President, they made this a priority. And for the first time, we see U.S. support for the Christians of the Middle East. What they promised during their campaign, they've delivered. The Vice President was at our summit 2 years ago, and he announced a change in policy to where we will have direct U.S. aid going to the Christians of the Middle East. A few months later, I mean, we thought this is going to take months or years, or to be able to go through government red tapes, but they started delivering within a few months to aid to the Christians of the Middle East. $300 million have been spent, and I believe another 60 or 70 million dollars it's on its way to help Christians. So they're not, for the first time, we see an administration that is not ashamed of helping Christians.
Right. This is an important thing because, and one of the things too about your organization, yes. We heard quite a bit about the Yazidis.
Yes.
This is a group that is not Muslim.
No.
It's not Christian.
That's true.
Not Jewish.
No.
Not Zoroastrian. It's
Correct.
their own religion.
That's correct.
And they've been a fairly isolated group that doesn't
Correct.
bother anybody.
Correct.
That's been their history. They are peaceful people.
That's right.
But they were targeted
yes.
for killing and slavery.
That's right.
And so we heard a lot about them. But you're including them,
Of
correct?
course we are. Because they're a minority. I mean, they don't have a voice outside their community. And we help all the persecuted. So we were able to work with them and help them and have their story be heard. We are the voice of the voiceless, no matter who it is.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure at least we are the voice of especially the Christians. The Muslims, I mean the Shia Muslims, they depend on Iran. The Sunni Muslims, they depend on the Gulf states and Saudi Arabia. The Christians, they always look to the West, and we need to support them. We need to support our brothers and sisters. And
so folks understand,
yes.
in general, when there is foreign aid given,
yes.
the Gulf states
yes.
will not give for the Christian communities.
That's correct.
The Shiites
yes.
from Iran
yes.
do not help the Christian communities.
Correct.
It depends on the Christians.
That's right.
To be able to take care of them.
That's right.
And this is very vulnerable.
Yes, it is. So we need to help them. We need to help them stay in their land, and whatever it takes. If it's in the Middle East or anywhere else, if a Christian needs help anywhere in the world, 80% of the persecution worldwide, they're Christian persecution. 80%. And no one wants to talk about it because it's Christian.
See, again, so there are lots of persecutions going on around the world.
Yes.
Jewish people have been targeted.
Of course.
Synagogues have been attacked in this country.
Right.
But still the majority of people targeted are Christians.
That's correct. Worldwide. And there was a resolution that we've helped and support from Congressman from Wisconsin, Congressman Grothman. that talks about the Christian persecution worldwide, and it talks also about the Middle East and China and many other countries. I mean, there's a genocide right now in Nigeria. Do you hear much about it here?
No, you don't.
I mean, it's on daily basis. People getting massacred, mass graves all
and
over.
Who's, is it Christians that are getting killed?
Of course, yes.
And
yes.
this is being done by Boko Haram?
Boko Haram, yes. Yes.
So that, which is
so the names, I mean, people always ask me, what's the difference between Boko Haram and ISIS or Al-Qaeda, or they're all the same. They change names. Now we say ISIS is defeated. Tomorrow they will start a new group.
Yep.
And they will call it whatever
because
they would.
Al-Qaeda is
yes.
working in Mali and some of the states in
yes.
northwestern Africa.
That's right.
And persecuting. There are many, many converts.
I mean, yes.
And they're persecuting them for converting.
That's right. That's right. The same. It's the same enemy.
Yep. And you know, this is, I think, to put it in a larger perspective as well. You know, I've mentioned to many, but there's a very fine book on the Christian martyrdom, and it points out that in the history of the church, the last 2,000 years,
yes.
75 million Christians have been martyred.
Yes.
But all of that 75 million, 40 million were killed in the last century. So the more than half of all martyrs of the last 2,000 years
yes.
are killed in the past century,
That's right.
mostly by communists, mostly by atheists.
That's right.
And then nationalistic governments too.
Correct.
So this is the history of the last 100 or a little bit over 100 years.
Yes.
But it hasn't stopped.
And it will probably not stop.
Yeah.
But we have to show to give them some strength. I mean, we are in the strongest country in the world. We can demand things. We had an example, Pastor Brunson was put in jail in Iraq, in Turkey.
A Protestant
He's
pastor.
a Protestant pastor.
Right.
Who was in jail in Turkey.
Right.
We worked to release him. We went to Congress. We worked with members of Congress, the senators. We did briefings. We did. At the end, the U.S. had to put sanctions on Turkey to be able to release Pastor Brunson. So during that period when we were helping him, I mean, our website was hacked, our emails were hacked, and they put like the Turkish flag on our website. We are not afraid of any evils. I mean, we will continue to fight, and we were going to be voice for the voiceless in any country. This is in Turkey. We have problems in Egypt. In Egypt, it's even a bigger problem. 15 million Coptic Christians. They are not treated equally, in fact, at all.
Yeah, so folks, again, get
yes.
perspective.
Yes.
The Coptic community in Egypt
yes.
is the largest number of Christians, not the biggest
right.
percentage of the country.
Right.
That would be Lebanon.
Correct.
But the largest number.
Correct.
It's what, almost 4 times as many people all in Lebanon.
Oh, yeah, the whole Middle East. Yeah, yeah.
So it's a big population,
Correct.
15 million.
Yes.
And very much harassed and persecuted.
They're harassed on daily basis. There's a province called the Minya province. There's a governor that treats them badly. And we've been asking for President Sisi to remove that governor. And we need to push them further and further. But the president is also delivering on this. President Trump.
President Trump.
President Trump. About 2 months ago, Sisi was visiting Washington. And that's a priority for the president and this administration. So the first thing he asked him, he told him, how are you treating the Copts? You know, they get most of their aid from the United States. So we have leverage on aid. Some other countries, we have leverage on security. They need us, like Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states. As the president said, they cannot last more than 2 or 3 weeks without us. So we need to give power to our people on the ground. We are the greatest country and the strongest country, and we need more and more help in so many ways.
Yeah. This is something where we have a responsibility to help people who are extremely vulnerable. Again,
that's correct.
Christians have been forbidden for 1,600 years to have any defensive weapons. They can't protect themselves.
That's right.
It's against the law.
That's right.
And it's made a mentality among the Christians. They don't always, they're just helpless. And so this is where other folks need to come in and be a strength. Just as we have to do with other minorities around the world who are suffering harassment and persecution. If you want to find out a little bit more, you can go to the website of In Defense of Christians. It is called indefenseofchristians.org. indefenseofchristians.org. And you can see a lot more what they're doing. We're going to take a break right now and come back and have your questions and comments, as well as those of our studio audience, so please stay with us. Thank you and welcome back. First of all, I want to just mention at the outset, your organization is specifically oriented towards defending Christians, minorities from horrible situations. But it's important to note that there are many Catholic groups that are cooperating with local governments to help everybody, that the aid goes to refugees, whether they're Muslim, Shia, Sunni, Alawi, Christian, various Christian groups, Yazidi.
That's right.
The food and all these necessities for everybody, but
that's correct.
You're specifically working to help the Christians in the, who are targeted.
Who are targeted. Because they're not getting help from anywhere else, other than from like the Knights of Columbus. I mean, they've been our partners. And here I want to thank.
They're having their big meeting right now.
So. I want to thank Supreme Knight Carl Anderson for his great support. I mean, when we started the organization and we needed help to pass legislation, especially on the genocide bill that was passed and became law, the Knights of Columbus, without them, we wouldn't have been able to do this.
So this is...
And the same with aid. I mean, they've been generous with aid to the Middle East, and so many other Christian and Catholic organizations.
Yeah, their swords are decorative. They're not wielding swords, they're giving charity. And
that's right.
Important.
That's right.
We have a question from our studio audience. Sir, where are you from?
Oh, I'm from Troy, Michigan.
Good to have you here. Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
And your question?
Well, actually, I had two questions.
Yes.
The first one is, why can't their local governments protect their own citizens? Obviously, there must be a breakdown of the social fabric because the need for help from outside their own government. Like, for instance, here, You can't do that here in the United States. If somebody attacks you, you have the police, you have protection.
Correct.
Why? Number one, obviously, just a breakdown. Why did that happen? Technically, what could be done to correct this? Is that the answer, ultimately, to have the local government be able to protect their own citizens?
Yes, and they are supposed to, because in the Middle East, most countries have dictators and kings, and they don't believe in religious freedom. And again, our government, our administration, the Trump administration, is making them accountable, including to the so-called allies. So we will continue to work with the administration and make sure that they are accountable. The last 2 years, the Trump administration and Secretary Pompeo, they did last year their first ministerial on religious freedom. And this year they did the second one. And they talk about every country in the world, from China to Saudi Arabia to Turkey to, and they make them accountable for whatever. I mean, they have to believe in religious freedom before enforcing this.
And just something I would want to correct as from this gentleman's statement.
Yes.
You know, here in general, we do trust the local, law enforcement to take care of things.
Yes.
But when you look back on American history, during the time of civil rights, the civil rights crisis, President Eisenhower had to send United States troops to and the National Guard to protect African American students from attacks by the racists. You know this was. He had no qualms in doing that, but soldiers were necessary then, and then over time things settled down. Well, here it's more chaotic,
of course,
than even when we had the Ku Klux Klan and such as that, trying to stop black people from going to school in mixed areas. So this is something that we learned from there, and that maybe we have to apply different lessons from the past. We have a caller. Hello, Patrick.
Hello, Father.
Hi, where are you calling from?
I'm in exile in Ohio, Father.
I won't ask the place of origin. You might be in a witness protection program.
The accent will give it away quickly. But actually, my first teaching job was at the Jesuit High School in Boston. And they had for years a mission in Baghdad.
That's right.
And they had Al-Hikmah University. And some of them are still very active in Jordan to this day.
That's right.
That isn't my question. A few years ago, that horrific scene of the Egyptian Copts who were forced to kneel by the seaside and their necks were cut. The weekend after that, I and several of my friends felt helpless. And there is a Coptic Orthodox church near us here. And so we decided to go there on Sunday, and we attended the Divine Mysteries there. I'm a Latin Rite Catholic, but we attended, and afterwards the priest said that we were the first people who had reached out to his community since this had happened. And that leads to my question, which is, to what extent do you think that the West has lost a sense of common cause with Christians in the Middle East? As the West has become more and more secularized, do we no longer think of Middle Eastern Christians as belonging to, as sharing something with us? And I would love to hear your guests and your answer to that.
Patrick, before we let the guest speak, I'd like to ask you one more question. When the priest and the people said that to you, were they angry at you, or what? What was their reaction to being there?
They're very gracious. They were very grateful that we had come. They were touched, actually.
Exactly. See, I suspected that, but I think it's important to know this is much appreciated when you reach out to our brothers and sisters.
That's right.
So please, Toufic.
Yes. When we started this organization about 6 years ago, many friends and even people here in the United States, even some members of Congress, did not even know that Christians exist in the Middle East. So we had to do a few things. I mean, 3 pillars of IDC were unity, advocacy, and awareness.
Unity among whom?
Unity among the Eastern churches. We had a historic summit where we brought all the Christian Eastern patriarchs to Washington, D.C., and it was our first summit.
And that's not only Catholic, that's ecumenical.
It's ecumenical. It's Orthodox, Maronite, Melkite, Assyrians, Chaldeans,
Syrian Catholic,
Armenian
Syrian
Orthodox, Syriac Orthodox, Syriac Catholics. And,
Armenian Catholics.
Of course, and Orthodox, so on both sides. And to bring them in all together with our Western churches. Of course, His Holiness the Pope sent in Cardinal Leonardo Sandri on his behalf, and many others, cardinals attended, and it was historic. So first it was bringing the Christians all together to pray in one place and work together. And as I said, at first no one knew that we Christians even existed, and the theme of it was protecting and preserving Christianity where it all began.
Yep.
This is where it all began. So that was a success. The second thing was to make sure that the media covers what we do and what's going on in the Middle East, and how to make sure atrocities are talked about, and the genocide that's going on. So
do you find, how do you find the coverage from the media in general?
Even now, I mean, there's barely coverage. I mean, as I said, there's a genocide in Nigeria happening. You don't hear much about it. The Copts are getting attacked on daily basis in the Minya province. You don't hear about it. It's like people, if it's other than Christian, you'll hear about it. I mean, if it's a Sikh getting killed somewhere, even here in the United States, you will. It's a major event. The same thing if it's a Muslim. It's like you know. But when it comes to Christians, you hear very, very, very little. And they need our help. They need our support. We need, if any Christian is hurt anywhere in the world, the whole world should hear about it from our people. I mean, if you're in Ohio, or you're in Michigan, or you're in California, and it doesn't matter if you're Catholic, Protestant, evangelical, the people have to hear our voices. And the way to get our voices heard, in many ways, you can call your congressman, you can call your senator, and tell them what's happening to our people. So we have to make, they are our brothers and sisters, and that's the way we should talk. And we want them to feel that we are with them.
All right. We have another question from our studio audience. Ma'am, where are you from?
I'm from Farmington Hills, Michigan.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Do you feel that because of the sins of the world and not repenting from them, we're forcing Satan to be stronger? Therefore, the second coming of Christ is coming, because Revelation has said this in the Bible?
Would you want me?
Of course.
Here's
Here's
my standard sense about the end times. I don't know. Jesus said the angels don't know. I don't think anybody else does. We have to be very clear that we leave the questions of end times up to management. And God is management. We're in sales. But your other point is absolutely correct. This is evil for anybody to attack any innocent person in their helplessness. We just saw this weekend. We just saw this in El Paso. People shopping for groceries and the needs of life are attacked for no reason. This is not, something that's a political football. This is grossly evil. What happened on the streets of Dayton, Ohio is a grossly evil event. But then the other 9 people that were killed in Chicago and 50 some other people shot is grossly evil. All of these are, we have to call evil what it is. And those who want to mollycoddle evil acts into something politically correct in some form are doing a disservice to victims, their families, and to the possibility of changing society. If you don't call evil what it is, then it's going to keep on. And whether it's the end times or not, I don't know. But the fact that these are horrendous things happening in our country and other countries, that must be addressed. And we have to be a people that says, you are surprised that there are all these killings in our country when you don't allow the 5th commandment to even be visible in a public school? You cannot have on the wall of a public school, thou shalt not kill. And then you're surprised that people kill? And to pay attention to the fact that the amount of these killings began to go up in the 1960s. 62 was when prayer and the reading of scripture was removed from the public schools and then increasingly from the public forum. So you're surprised? This is crazy to think that this is a surprise. There was a lull in such violence from the 30s through the 50s, and then it began going up. Let's take a look and do what is good and virtuous and stop making it about whether you vote for one candidate or another. Make it about all of us obeying God's law. That's issue number 1. We have another caller. Hello, Robert.
Yes, good evening here from Kennington, Missouri.
Welcome.
Just wondering, hi. Just wondering, with 1 billion Catholics in the world and 50 million in the United States of America, that's a lot of care there in the first place. But as I wonder, like an answer from you, Father, is what are the 3 basic obligations that we as Catholics have in terms of the Middle East?
Sure. Well, Toufic, so given the large number, there are 1 billion Christians, yes, plus more than that, 1.2 billion, and then you've got all these tens of millions of Christians in the United States. What is our obligation to the Christians of the Middle East?
Our obligation is to work with the Christians of the Middle East or outside the Middle East, with any Christian, to help them, to support them, to in any way we can, to work with the U.S. government, with members of Congress, to support them maybe financially, to give them, like there are many people that are in need to stay. I hear that some schools, even in Lebanon, I mean, why is there, we were talking what Christians bring to the Middle East. Christians, I mean, and a good example is Lebanon. Christians in Lebanon, they built schools, universities, businesses, yep. And Christians bring moderation. That's why Lebanon is a little bit different from anywhere else in the Arab world. Yep. They bring moderation. They bring Muslims to the schools. I mean,
all the Catholic schools in Palestine the same way.
That's right. So
and Jordan.
That's right. Without the Christians, it will be like Saudi Arabia, where you cannot even go and pray. There's no church, in fact, to go and pray. So And so we need to help them in any way that we can.
And that's where our government, we can put pressure on them.
They can put pressure on surrounding neighbors and countries, and many countries that we protect, many countries that we call allies, many countries that we finance, give aid to. So,
as well as our own personal charity.
Of course.
Let's take one quick call.
Sure.
Mariam?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have only 1 minute. What is your question or comment?
My question is the same thing, like in the Middle East, in Lebanon. Most of the students, when I was a Lebanese, in Lebanon, I went to school, a Catholic school. Majority of the kids were Muslims, and they learned the same thing. And when they left, it seems it didn't make any difference. So what is it? Is he saying the government? I would like it. What I understand that the government, or the Lebanese have to help or teach the Muslims that the Christians are not against them. They're all the same. They need to maybe nourish them that way. And instead of that, they leave from the Catholic churches, they leave, most of the girls, they go to non-schools.
Right.
They learn all the things we learn.
Mariam, I have to jump in because we are running flat out of time, but this is, we have just a couple seconds.
Sure.
Basically, she's saying we have to get along.
We do.
And teach each other how to do that.
That's right.
Again, I want you to go to indefenseofchristians.org. Toufic, I'm so sorry that we're right out of time.
Sure.
But thank you for letting us be aware of all this.
Sure, thank you.
And may Almighty God bless all of you with great love for everybody and great charity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
And thank you all for your support of EWTN so that we can bring you these programs. God bless you as well.
Thank you, Father.